Welcome to this week's edition of Pete Smith Host. Well, Super 15 rugby got up and away on Friday night, and it certainly wasn't the result that Crusader fans wanted, was it? And we can forget the goal kicking. I don't think that really is a major factor. I think that can happen from time to time. More, I thought it was an attitudinal thing. And I think if the Crusaders of 2014 think that they can just go and pick up the Super 15 title, they're seriously, seriously wrong. They're not going to be gifted it, and they're going to have to go and earn it. And I didn't see enough urgency in that Crusader side. The old Crusader sides just would have ripped them apart. It needed someone to take it by the throat and really have a go. It's a pretty depleted Chiefs side that came here, and it got worse and worse as the night went on too, which was a problem. But one thing I did notice, and coming back on the bus, I enjoyed the bus, it was on tour, and coming back on the bus, I thought, you know, the Chiefs are now in a winning habit and know how to win. And that's the old Crusaders way. They knew how to put sides away. Didn't always be pretty, but they'd do it. I was just thinking, I wonder if there's a bit of a Wayne Smith factor in there. Eh? We performed pretty well when Curly was in charge down here and had a hand in it all. And they're going pretty good in Chiefs country where he's moved to now. So, don't know. That's just a thought. It's not the end of the world, I'm going to tell you, but it wasn't a good Crusader start. And someone who would have felt that as my guest, I'm sure, because he's born and raised in Canterbury and still is a Crusader man, I think, and a red and black man, is Peter McSweeney, who is with Sport New Zealand. CEO, Pete, nice to see you here. Disappointed with the Crusaders' result?
Well, I think they've been the benchmark for a lot of New Zealand sport, actually. One of our better high-performing programs. And look, this Super 15 is fascinating, and I think the Chiefs have gone a long way in getting that culture right. We talk about high-performance culture being the difference, so it'll be interesting to see what happens second round. You
mentioned that they're a benchmark. As you travel around in your role, do you cite various sports that others should attain or get to that level?
Yeah, if you're talking about high performance, then definitely. I think rowing, if you've ever been to Karapiro, what they create there, you know, the results that they get isn't a mystery when you look at how hard they train and the culture.
Come down a step and go to Ruatana for this, what is it, 20th of March, I think it is, and have a look at Māori Cup. Yeah, I mean, it's just a massive. 2,000 elite New Zealand youngsters. It's great.
Well, rowing's a good example of where elite do really well, and they inspire the young kids. And Māori Cups, as you know, is growing hugely, biggest secondary school tournament, and to get a flow on from those into a pretty tough sport, so it's good.
Still difficult to retain them though, Pete, isn't it? And the other sports are finding exactly the same thing.
Look, that's the same. I mean, you know, those in rowing, you don't do rowing to recreate because it's tough. So you've got to be pretty strong-willed, mentally tough, and you really like to train and train hard. So it's one of those unique sports, but they do very well in New Zealand.
Is that a common thread as you get involved in sport, and that's the drop-off from secondary school, perhaps a little at university, but then if they haven't made the top sides, they don't want to know it?
Well, there is a drop-off, and that's right through the teenage years. Clearly, you know, kids have got lots of distractions nowadays. There's a lot more opportunity for them to do other things. So we grew up in a diet of sport, and that was what it was. And one good thing about New Zealand, we love sport. So there's a you know, it's part of our DNA, it's part of our history. But
we've got a country that suits it too, haven't we?
We do, like Australia, the environment's right, the climate's right, but we do have a love of sport. You know, travelling around the world, people are astounded by our high levels of participation from kids all the way through to adults. But look, that's under pressure, I think. You know, I think it would be terrible to sit here and false sense of security that people are going to continue to play sport. So we need to find more opportunities for people, and we need to give our kids that love of sport, that fundamental movement skill early.
I was talking to the college that I went to as a youngster. They've now got, I think, 39 sporting options. You know, it used to be just the core sports and that was it. And even your favourite sport, hockey, was down the pecking order a little bit, wasn't it, really? But 39 options. Of course, they've got cars, they're mobile, they can go anywhere. There's a few bob around too, I suppose. That dilutes it a bit, doesn't it, the pool?
But also, I think it's great. I mean, kids now want to play a different sport than you and I grew up playing. And that opportunity of understanding what the consumer wants, what people want, and you know, that's why we've seen, you know, the likes of futsal, we've seen 3-on-3 basketball, we've seen 2020 cricket. All of these are emerging because people want faster, more entertaining
opportunities. Sevens now in Olympic sport.
You name it. You just keep going. Nines in rugby league. So.
They used to be called bastardised sports, didn't they? But now they're not. They're an accepted instant coffee type sport.
So I think it's that supply and demand. We've supplied people with a lot of stuff that maybe they don't want. Right. So now sport has to be a little bit more discerning.
So what happens to your organisation? That must stretch it to breaking point, does it?
Yeah, well, our job is, in a lot of ways, as Sport New Zealand, as a leader of the system, and that means that we understand what's going on and the trends and the issues. And one of the things, I'm in Christchurch right now, is I'm here with Sport Canterbury, looking at how sport and recreation is in the city after 3 years on from the terrible earthquake.
We're going to get that in the second part. Can we just come back? If you had unlimited source of funds, do you genuinely believe New Zealand would do a lot better?
Well, I think we do incredibly well now.
That's my point.
I would argue we are world class. Our elite, level high performance we are, and the participation rates of kids and adults suggest that we are one of the more sporty nations in the world.
Right.
But we just can't rest on that.
Yeah. Is funding what is required now, though, to maintain that?
I think funding is part of the element. I think part of it also is the encouragement of things like coaches. It's the encouragement of volunteers. It's really important that we still have a strong school system, and we still see both PE and school sport flourishing in New Zealand. That's where we get a lot of our children's, their first major opportunity with sport is around schools. So that's a major thrust for us going forward. And
it would be a huge demand on clubs if they had to pick the whole lot up themselves. Well, they probably couldn't do it, could they?
Yeah, well, it's sort of more the European model. You know, you went to Holland or Germany, it's all club-based from cradle to grave. We don't have that here. We're sort of school club system. So the school setting is hugely important. Over 50% of kids say they play, secondary school, play for their school in some form during the year. Right. Talk to our colleagues around the world, they're astounded by that high number. But that number could be reducing, so we want to make sure that we keep those numbers high.
Is PE still a flavour of the month activity at primary school level?
No, it's not for us. It's a concern. I mean, the school environment is challenging anyway, but getting more kids to be involved in PE and learn those run, jump, throw, swim, bike, all those things that we took for granted as we grew up as kids. Really important that we give it
rather
to the
than
early
fast
age.
food and fizzy drinks.
Oh, that's exactly right.
Yeah, I mean, we've got an obese society, haven't we? Well, that's the way.
And sport's an element of that. The more active people can be and involved in sport, the greater.
Okay, that's where it is. That's on a broad brush sort of approach we've taken to it. But now we're going to come back and we're going to have a look at this region. It's Pete's own hometown, and we're going to talk about just the problems that are facing us. Pretty poignant day last Saturday, and it's great to have Peter here with us straight after as we had the anniversary of the earthquake. So back in a moment, and that's with Sport New Zealand. Welcome back. We were discussing sport in general, but now because my guest is with me, and he's obviously got a responsibility to look after all provinces, but he's got a wee soft spot, I think, for Canterbury, because that's where he was born and raised and played his hockey. And, the events, we talked about it last Saturday, a very moving day it was indeed. Peter, you've obviously been down many times since, particularly the February 22. What would you rate it out of 10, the rebirth or just the regeneration?
Well, I think what I'm always surprised by and admiration is the resilience of people down here to get things back to normal as quickly as possible. Sport's one of those things that can bring communities back together, and when the earthquake hit, the mobilisation of Sport Canterbury and all their supporters to get sport going in community and get smile back on kids' face. We understand the value of sport in those situations.
Do you think, though, it's wearing a bit thin?
Well, I think, what I do know is that the participation levels are back now to where they were just prior to the earthquake, which is really amazing given the facilities.
Correct. That's where you're going to get a problem for yourself again, aren't you?
And what I think that shows is genuinely Cantabrians love sport. They produce more heroes from as a region compared to anyone else in the country. So Canterbury gets sport and love it. It's part of who you are. It's part of the DNA. And so finding opportunities to keep sport going has been the real challenge. And what's happened is that people have come up with innovative solutions. They've come up with different ways of operating, and shared facilities and created leagues. Basketball is a good example where got hit with QE2 being out of action. They had to change the competition structure. They went and started to use school halls when that wasn't, and gymnasiums, which didn't happen previously. So they've got numbers back to where they were and greater. So I think through adversity, people have had to come up with solutions they wouldn't normally had to deal with. But look, there has been a human element to this. Clearly the stress and strain on sports administrators, regional sports organisations, their chief executives and boards, there's been a real issue here in terms of supporting those people.
Has the enthusiasm died, do you think, from the decision makers a little bit? Where it was, yes, we will do this, to now, well, it's got to be a considered thing and it's going to take some time.
Well, I think it goes through patterns. Now it's around what's the footprint for Christchurch for the next 100 years. So what is sport going to look like in 50 years' time? So decisions made today, hopefully in 50 years' time they can reflect back and go, well, they were good decisions. So we've got things like the Metro, which we're discussing now, for sports facilities, likes of hockey and gym and tennis and others that were broken as a result of the earthquake. Where do they situate? How do they come together?
Water sports, I've got to ask.
And water sports.
What is going to happen?
Yep. But I think what's going to happen is that there are going to be new solutions to big problems that I think is going to teach the rest of New Zealand and sometimes the world. We had some people overseas here last week from the UK looking at facilities, completely blown away by the devastation here and understand with big decisions, but they are quite energised by the solutions that are being created here and the opportunity.
However, that is, to me, starting to wear a bit thin. We've said the next generation is going to have a wonderful place to live.
Yep.
I think we do have a generation here that we need to actually think about, rather than the glory days are going to be further down. I mean, if you are a rower, it's a glamour sport and you want to be part of it.
Yep.
It's hellishly inconvenient at the moment, isn't it, to be a rower or a swimmer?
No, it is. It's in those tough times where it seems to me somewhat, not paralysed, but the big issues, big decisions to be made, and you want to get them right. So people tend to be thinking about that more. But I think we're nearly at the end of that process, and once the rebuild starts, some of these facilities do get built, the world will look better. But look, right now I respect that is pretty tough for people and certainly for sport in this community.
Yeah, and I think probably, if we were to be totally honest about it, the two that have grabbed the headlines have been Hagley Park for cricket and a stadium for rugby. It's not all about that, though, is it?
No, just getting better quality field services around the region to allow a lot more sport to take place.
Where's Wilding Park?
Yeah,
there's a heck of a lot of kids play tennis who are denied that opportunity in good facilities. There's a heap of sport you could think of, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. Some of the things, I mean, we built a high-performance centre at Jelly Park, $3.5 million. We got on with it and built it because we wanted to ensure the elite athletes in Christchurch had that opportunity. We're just announcing a pathway to podium.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what is that?
Yeah, it's a talent development program that we're putting up and down the country. What we recognise in our system is that we look after our carded athletes. They are the elite athletes. It's the ones just below that. It's the 16, 17, 18-year-olds that are emerging from schools that need to have high-performance environment around them to start to develop and grow. They've not had that opportunity. So we want those good kids to stay here in Christchurch. We don't want them to fly off to Auckland or else. We want them here. We want them to be good role models and to create a legacy. So,
not being negative, but can that come with a downside? I think back to my day and probably your day, there was a stepping stone of production going up to get to the top, wasn't there? Now it seems, once again, this instant copy thing, we talk about sevens and nines and whatnot. If I don't make the academy when I've left school, then, I want to be an All Black at 21 and I want to be earning the money and I want the glamour that goes with it. There's an impatience of youth now, isn't there? That must be difficult for you.
Yeah, no, it is. And a lot of our top athletes are more mature. They're not the 21-year-olds. They're the ones that have gone 24, 25.
Right.
So, and the answer is that at some stage, kids are going to have to leave this community and go to Auckland. And not only that, is they have to go overseas. So we're all feeding somebody somewhere to develop our athletes further. But the most important one is we identify the good talent and we put some support systems around them and
but do you
encourage
promise
them.
them the globe?
No, well, they have to earn it. So the answer is you pick talent, and you pick talent on their physical ability, but also on their mental toughness. Yeah. And you and I know gifted athletes don't make it. It's the hard nut ones that do. And so somewhere on the line they have to stand up and they have to deliver it themselves. You can't spoon feed them.
Correct.
But it's giving
the ownership still goes with the person, doesn't it?
Absolutely, always.
And
always.
the desire to be good.
But the problem is that our kids at 18 get the same level of support that around the world elite athletes are getting, and the answer is probably today no. And this program is about increasing that.
Do the major sports, are they okay? Is it the minors you're discussing?
Yeah, I think your professional sports, your crickets and your rugbies have got that talent pathway and that professional game fairly well sorted out. We're talking mainly, a lot of them, about the Olympic sports.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we'll come back. I've got other questions I want to ask Peter, because it's a pleasure having him here. He's doing his, I think, countrywide tour at the moment. Pathway's interesting. It's a half full, half empty scenario in my mind. You can either, it's a fine line between giving them too much, too young, or denying them the opportunity to have a crack. And that's the balls in the air thing you've got to deal with at Sport New Zealand. So back in a moment with Peter Fitzgibbon. Fascinating, isn't it? And I often say we should record the ad breaks, actually, because we've got quite testy in here about, you know, where do you make them stand on their own 2 feet or actually help them all the way? Interesting. Peter Fitzgibbon's my guest with me, but we're going to go on. No, this is Sport New Zealand. What can you tell me about the Sport in Education project? Hillmorton High School, what's the go?
Yeah, so the issue here is that that we want more sport in schools. Schools are really important.
Do teachers want it?
Well, that's what this project's about. To be fair, what we recognise is that sport has enormous value, and what it does is it engages kids. So the concept here is to create a curriculum around sport that teaches kids reading, writing, arithmetic. So we've picked 8 schools. Hillmorton is one of those in Christchurch, where the classroom has changed to look at doing maths, but instead of doing maths, going out and playing a game of volleyball. Before you do that, you've got to draw the court up with the right dimensions. You've got to get the height of the net right. You keep the stats of the score. You bring all that back into the classroom, and now the kids are entertained, they're engaged, and their learning improves. And academically, we're seeing ginormous improvement across the 8 schools. Things like truancy, so it's also value-based, so truancy and bullying is reduced, and also the number of kids playing sports increased. So,
and the rapport between teacher and pupil, I think, must be healthier.
Well, the remarkable thing...
It was in our day, I'm sure.
Remarkably, in these schools, is the PE department becomes the centre of the school.
Right.
And so it's driven through the PE department. Now, I don't know about you,
but the teachers and other subjects must see a change in the pupils' attitude.
That's right.
So they benefit.
Yeah, so this is the beginning of a program, so it's not the whole school, it's just certain classes. So we're following a model that's happened in the UK where this whole school has adopted this from year 9 all the way right through. And they're outperforming, academically outperforming all other schools. So while it's driven by an academic outcome, we're also getting our sport gain with it as well, and it's a great relationship with the Ministry of Education.
Globally, are we just part of the imbalance of male teachers versus female teachers?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
No way to get over that?
No. But it's about quality opportunity for sport, and part of that is getting clubs inside schools as well.
Yes, because who's going to pick up that void, that's all.
Yep. So the other model that this provides in secondary school is also about senior pupil leadership. So the senior students go into the feed-air primary schools and run sports programs in those primary schools. And so part of this also is bringing clubs that are associated with the school into the school. Right. So it's looking at a sort of holistic view of sport inside those schools. So and we've been going year 1. It's a 3-year program. Right. We've had 16 other schools join the program. So
is that a voluntary thing to join? Or?
Yep, it is.
We spread it right through New Zealand.
Well, we subsidised the first 8 because we wanted to get this up and going. The 16 that have come along are all prioritising themselves and paying for it themselves. So we think we're on the cusp of something here. And if it improves better kids, this is about improving better young kids in New Zealand. And I think it's a wonderful program.
And I think we can't be accused of being biased that all you think about is the sport. You know, we're thinking about the health, we're thinking about the agility, we're thinking about the brain power. You know, it's not... I know we're sports nuts, but that's not the main catalyst.
Well, you produce a sport champion, you produce a champion person.
Pretty good person.
Yeah. And really, really firmly believe that's the value of power of sport.
Right, so the focus for the next 5 years, community sport?
Yep, so we're very, very comfortable about where our high performance program is now. You know, again, I could tell you a whole story about us being world leading. You know, if the Olympic Games were held today, being our summer Olympic sports, we'd be ranked 8th on the medal tally. So we're doing things that the rest of the world go, how the hell do you do that? 4 million people in the middle of nowhere.
Is that when the sun's shining and it's warm?
No, it's through all sports.
Winter Olympics just
you know, that was our most successful Winter Games ever.
Really?
We had, I forgot the number, 6 in the athletes in the top 8. a fourth. They're new disciplines now with free ski. And so, yes, we.
2/3 of the world come and train here.
Yep.
I mean, we must have damn good facilities to work up on.
We produce snow when the rest of the world don't.
That's right.
And also a lot of the
So
stuff.
do you think we're happy with where they are at the moment?
Oh, we're never happy, are we, in high performance?
No.
So I think it's about a complete review after the games, and we'll figure out what we're going to do from there. But
I don't know. It's probably a little bit more glamorous than some of the rowing, for argument's sake. Put a little bit more glamorous.
But it's more youthful. Kids love it.
Now, I'm on a bit of a hobby horse here, and I haven't briefed you on this at all. To get something to move in the city, sports-wise, I reckon we should have a crack at the 2024 Commonwealth Games.
Yep.
We've got to have a purpose to build these things. We've got to give some real heart to the city. We've got to show the world we're open.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if we even showed Auckland that we're still alive, really.
Yeah, I think to be fair, well, it would be difficult getting 2020 because...
No, not 2020, 2024.
It would have to be 26.
Or 26,
yep. So
that's great.
that would be after Gold Coast in 18, and then can't be in the same southern hemisphere. Look, it's quite aspirational, I think, what you're talking about. The infrastructure required to build it is massive. You'd need to put a lot of new stadiums.
But it has to be done anyway, Pete, doesn't it? The city deserves those facilities.
So I think that you're raising an issue which I think the city needs to look at is what major events that need to be here to help stimulate.
And who's going to give it a deadline? Something to work to.
Yeah, but I think some of the national sporting bodies can really now, the city's back on its feet, can look at some major sporting opportunities here. We've got, obviously, with cricket coming and FIFA, what's the next one after that? Commonwealth Games is quite challenging because it's big. It's gone.
Yeah, we've done it well before. 74 is still the best games ever run.
Yeah, the cost of it now is significantly more.
I agree with that, but we are in that cost thing anyway.
Yep.
Why not have a purpose to build them?
Yep.
The hospitality industry certainly needs a kick in the backside to give them the confidence to go ahead.
Yep.
And I agree with you. We need to get more bigger events if we can.
Yep, we do.
But
I agree with the notion with the Commonwealth Games. You need to do a little bit more work on that.
Yeah, or perhaps just a world something.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. That,
like the World Under 20 football and
Well, you build the metro, and you got swim to have the FINA World Championships here. Whatever be aspirational.
I threw it at you because I get a bit wound up about it.
No, good on you.
I do talk to Mr. Brownlee about it. Okay, so the focus with the community sport is to do what you're doing, but do it better.
Yeah.
Always refining it.
Yeah, so it really is around providing more opportunity for more people to be involved in sport. So don't take it for granted. We need to keep working at it. We need better coaches. You need to work better in schools. We need to strengthen clubs. We need better events. All of those things, better facilities, all of those things contribute to it.
Is it still a popular industry to work in?
I think it certainly is, but I think a lot of people give blood, sweat and tears and don't get paid for it. So it's a passion. I'm here like you because I'm passionate about it. And
bit of a smell of the oily rag thing, isn't it?
But that's who we are and what we are.
That's an unbreak wire, isn't it?
And that's sport in New Zealand. So it's a good industry to be in, absolutely.
And I must admit, I've been involved now with grandkids, and I see the parents are there still, which is great.
Yeah.
Their time's been eroded, of course, with 7-day-a-week trading, but gee, they still want to be part of it.
But the power of sport to bring communities together, to enrich people's lives, to teach them a whole lot of life lessons, those are critical elements to sport, and that's why we want sport back in Canterbury vibrant again.
Good boy. Okay, he's on the pilgrimage. I'll invite him to open the 2026 Commonwealth Games when they're held here in Canterbury, and I'll get you a car park or something. I'll look after you. Great to have you, Pete. Well, there's best of luck as you go around the country. Sport is great. There's no two ways about it, and these people are trying their damnedest to make it even better.